This is Chair. I'm your host Nemanja. And let's first go back to previous week episode with Pavle Krivokuća from Impact Hub.
By default, people like to have that romantic view of innovations, like, oh, we're gonna make a next big thing. And people love to create things that are gonna make impact to other people, life, environment speaking, society speaking, whatever. But the thing is, those innovations are so rare. A bunch of things that we call innovations are actually inventions. So like using the existing either technology or solution or specific kind of, I would say, physical product in a different way. We have a really cool and great engineering talent. That's a known, I would say, fact now on the market. The thing is, we all collectively need more business development insight and more business development experience to make these kind of deals. And people don't know that. They the engineers who build amazing innovations are not able to transfer it in a usable inventions that can be usable, for those buyers, for their customers, for those markets, and grow it in a sustainable fashion. I think the whole ecosystem is giving many opportunities now, and you can actually find a bunch of people, organizations, VCs, angel investors, stuff like that, to kind of help you grow in a proper manner. It's just a sense of you understanding what you need and navigating through that complex landscape and knowing where you're going from that point on.
This is Chair, place where we discuss innovations. And today we are going to talk about how to innovate human potential. In times like this, where so many things are uncertain, human potential can be neglected and forgotten, and even itself can be solution to uncertainty. How to overcome this? We talk with Bojana Dubovski. She's serial entrepreneur, creative business innovator with the knack to unlock human potential. Paying forward is a part of her life, and by her own admission, she's privileged to have Mediterranean roots, but growing up in the Netherlands. So, Bojana, welcome to Chair. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I love to be here.
So, based on your first-hand experience, does personal development depends on place of birth and on your direct surroundings?
Well, you know what? I think this discussion is very old, nature versus nurture, and how it's also very controversial over time. But I think from my personal experience that actually through life, both are kind of dynamic in a way. And both contribute either to, let's say, personal development or new things that we have to learn. And I think on both sides there are pluses and minuses. So I think there is like a new thing going on. And if I look at surroundings, for example, now I'm very active within a foundation in Amsterdam who's fighting equality. Because through Corona, the distinguishment between social layers has become bigger. And if you look at, let's say, disadvantaged areas where we are very active to see what's going on a social level, you see that, for example, they have this student following system where they actually follow the educational level of children between the age of, I think, 7 till 12. And then they actually choose a direction where they are heading for in high school. So this is the level of education they're going for. And if you look at that, it's very interesting to see that the average of those kids are not different than, let's say, overall the city. So disadvantaged areas versus the city of Amsterdam. Although the advice they get to go into the higher system is lower, so like 24% of the disadvantaged areas, they get like a lower advice, and where in the city of Amsterdam it's like 43. So there is like surroundings are influenced by what are you going to be when you're a grown up. So I think it's a very much influencing.
You mentioned nature versus nurture, and of course there is that story about culture versus mentality, right? How this influencing exactly on climbing on the stages of the Maslow?
Well, I think you need a lot of luck too. If I look at my own story, I didn't have the chance to go into university, but by getting to know the right people and the right network. And sometimes they also say like your net worth is more the people you know than the knowledge you have. So you have to really also be lucky to have the right network. And also within this foundation, for example, we try to help those kids to broaden their horizon, to look into new networks, new people. Because if your bubble is this big, this small, then it will never get bigger.
You won't get the potential that you deserve.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I want to move to your entrepreneurship spirit, and I know that you made quite a few companies in your life, and to concentrate on one with very interesting name, Your Next Story. This is the company that you founded that has a very interesting program called 100-day program. So can you give me a glimpse of what is this program really about?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm doing this company with two partners, and it's interesting to say that we didn't have the concept of the company. I know them both, and I actually brought them together in a way. Like I feel that there is something we have to co-create together, and it was very interesting to see that actually I could not schedule their agendas together at a certain point. It wasn't she was not available, he was not available. I was like, oh, I want you to meet. And then at a certain point, I was like, okay, you know what? This weekend I'm going to Belgrade. Please join me, to her and to him. And then we came to Belgrade actually for a weekend to make them introduce to each other and also look at where are we as persons and what do we want in this world. So there the idea of Your Next Story came. And it was actually founded by frustration because we saw a huge mismatch between, let's say, potential and talents within companies and also how companies are using them or not using them. And this mismatch, in a way, we thought like we can help this. So there Your Next Story came from. And we've thought of these 100-day programs because you need 100 days to embed a new skill or whatever your behavior actually. So if you change behavior, you need like 100 days to embed it in life. So we chose for this number. And we have developed a whole program which has a certain aspect, which is also like partly digital, but also very much in real life. And we help companies to kind of look at the motivation of their people. We look at where are their values, how do values match of the employees of the company and the company itself, because that's a core thing, we believe.
If you don't start with that, you will have problems later.
Exactly. And also we look at resilience, like how resilient are you and are you able to actually adapt? Because you need, let's say, in the working force, you need soldiers, you need pioneers, so we actually indicate how the diversity within the company is organized. And do you have enough of what you need as a company? And also, how do you communicate to each other based on your values?
So, how are you measuring this? How are you measuring the program is successful? It's very interesting for me to ask this question because lately we had some episode with one doctor from the neuroscience, and we talked about how to measure empathy, and it was something that it's so hard to measure. How you measure the success for this program, because what you're aiming with this program is personal development, and it's very...
Yes. It's very difficult. The short-term, let's say, results are visible in a way, and you could measure those. But because we kind of, we embed a long time thing, because it has to click in a way, and it doesn't click right away within the program or right after the program. It takes some time. So we are actually really looking into how can we measure the long-term impact our programs have. And we are not yet there because time has to pass to also see. And what we also talk about with our clients is you have to accept, if you work with us, that maybe some of your employees will choose a different career path. And you can see it as a loss, but on the other hand, you have helped this person to actually know what he or she wants and follow their heart or whatever they are here for. And we also show them that actually these employees are lifetime ambassadors, because you as a brand or as a company enable them to look into themselves and what they actually want. So that's also, we always try to make the glass half full in a way, and also discuss the risks, which also can be beneficial.
It sounds like very fair sum game, right? It's everybody's on the win. Even though if you're looking from one perspective, for example, some employee is going to leave that company, it's good for company as well as for the employee, right?
Exactly. And you know what? And those ambassadors outside of your company are maybe more valued than ambassadors inside of your company, because they have a broader scope.
So we are talking about this unlocking human potential with this, and this is clearly it's complex to do this, even though on the small scale. But let's talk bigger. Let's talk on the higher scale, on the bigger scale. Is it impossible, or are there any innovations, technological or any other type, that can help this to scale?
Well, you know what? If we're really talking about technology, we developed an app which helps us through this process. And I think at a certain point we're going to add AI to it, because I think the market is asking for it. But if we look at what we are doing with potential and talent, I think the innovation is daring. So we actually challenge the companies to unlock the potential of their employees. And there the big innovation is. So not act from fear or from control, but look at unused potential, or look at not even, that you put someone in a position where they actually don't use their full potential. So, and we try to also wake up the companies, like, look at what you have and see how you can actually work with that, what you have. And we see that through control or fear, they don't have time to look at it. It's always a quick fix in a way. And talents leave, or they are not engaged anymore. They're like laid back and they think, well, whatever, So this is also a huge cost, let's say. Or they leave, and then you have again costs for research, for finding the right talents, but also engage them and educate them. So it's like a very old model, and I think it's time for something new now.
Can you share me some good examples of how you made a change on the people itself? Can you just take one let's say, but one example from the group that you've had?
Well, you know what, it's so interesting, because we are not there to judge. So that's one thing, and everybody has their personal lifeline, and our program, we always say, what you invest, you gain back. So if you are open to actually really open up in a way, like put everything on the table, because we're doing a lot of reflections. We're doing a lot of, let's say, like, what are your habits, and do you like them? Do you dislike them? Because there is a lot of space in the program to actually take time for yourself. And we say it's a present to yourself. And this thing, it has to click with people. So at the point in the program, because there's always a period of time within the program that people are, trying to avoid, or they think, well, I'm not sure, But at the point when it clicks, then they are engaged, and then the results are huge. So because they see, like, okay, this is actually a present to myself, and I want to gain the most out of it. And everybody has a different level of most. But what we see is we get letters, we get emails, we get messages after X amount of time. Like, hey, I'm here now, and I thought of that moment with you guys there. It helped me a lot, and now I have the reflection on it. Like, I understood what you were doing there. Things like that. So we see that we really create something which give people insights on themselves, but also help them not only on a career path, but also in personal life.
Yeah, to grow.
To grow in every perspective of their personality.
So while I was researching this subject, I came across an interesting idea that said that unlocking potential is a process of unlearning and learning. What is your position on this?
Well, what's his name? Lao Tzu had also this perspective, like you gain, you get knowledge if you are able to kind of get new information, but you also kind of you get wisdom if you are able to let go of the old habits and old things. So that's the unlearning part. And I think because we look at this in a way also with our we look at limiting beliefs, for example.
Okay.
So which limiting beliefs did you have through childhood or through life, which you don't need anymore, you know? So that's the unlearning part. Like,
so you're a different person now, and
yes, and do you still need this,
yeah.
you know? And through some exercises, and also which is very powerful within our programs is the peer-to-peer conversations, where you actually share your stories. And this goes very deep. And we also say like, and it's like that, because if I now, I can call now someone from one of those programs, we're lifetime friends. We don't have to talk to each other every week or every month, but you go that deep and you know each other that well in the core that you don't actually experience that with your friends, with your family, with your, you know, it's a different level of connecting. Yeah. And there we also say like, okay, unlearning is that like, okay, look at yourself. What do you need to let go to actually make the step forward in whatever direction you want to? And I think if you add relearning to unlearn and learn, is actually like, okay, what can we learn in a new way to actually help our growth? So there's also a part, like, okay, which things can we do in a different way? And that's actually going in a higher, let's say, development level.
I'm so impressed with this program, but I want to ask you from the other side of the story, what were the biggest challenges?
I think the biggest challenge is actually choosing the right clients who are having the guts, in a way, to step into a program with us. Like I mentioned before, you can lose your employees, but also we don't want to work with clients who choose the employees who are going through our program, because this is not going to work. We actually want our clients to give the employees the choice. Because I need the intrinsic motivation of the people who actually feel that they have to do something, whatever it is. That I need this intrinsic motivation to have a successful program. So this is one side. And as soon as management want to choose the employees, it's not going to be as good as it could be. And also, some of our rules is management also has to be in the program. Everyone is equal.
Completely engaged.
Yes, so that's also for some companies, you know, that's also a challenge for us, because some companies...
Some are transparent, some are not.
Yeah, and we actually only want to work with those who are transparent, because you can't work with the working force, let's say, and management is disaligned. Then it will never be successful. So we try to combine everything. So I think these are one of the biggest challenges. Our programs in general, if we look at the 100 days, within the 100 days we have like outdoor journeys. So we go to basic life completely, remote. We also did some of those programs in Serbia and Montenegro. But
actually brought people from...
The whole
Amsterdam
world.
And whole world?
The whole world.
Okay.
We had 27 nationalities in a certain program for another client. And what we do, and that's something also which is a challenge, when you talk to local partners, we actually always find it's like on more dimensions, the experience people go through with us. You have, of course, the program, let's say, with the reflections and the assignments and the things, but it's multidimensional, because I always look at the experience they're in. So it's not a coincidence that they are at a certain point on a bike. It's not a coincidence that they are on top of a hill, because it all adds to their experience and to their process. And this is something which is also difficult to explain to others or partners or companies, because people will say like, yeah, why don't you sleep in a hotel? No, everyone can sleep in a hotel. We build a camp on top of a mountain because it adds value to the whole program. So this is really like a design which is on different layers, and also the food they eat, where do they get the food, and how is it connected? It all has a reason. So this is also a big challenge to actually explain to, let's say, providing partners.
So we are talking today here on innovating human potential, of course, but I want to move to a bit philosophical realm. Right? And maybe this is going to be the hardest question that you need to answer.
Okay.
In your opinion, where is going to be next breakthrough in human potential?
Good one. Well, I think there's already a shift happening in the world, and I think some countries less than other countries. But I think if we look at how organizations are developing, I see that where before very much the, let's say, the hard skills, the job skills were kind of rated, now the companies are also looking at the soft skills, let's say the human skills. So, and it's interesting if you have like those peer-to-peer reviews. It's interesting to see that peer-to-peer, like the horizontal reviews, always bring out the soft skills of people, where when it's vertical, when it's like the manager or the director and employees, it's always the hard skills. So it's interesting to see that peer-to-peer is more looking at the soft skills, where management is always looking like, okay, which hard skill can be improved and what can be different. So I think there is a shift happening, because I think nowadays the new workforce is actually not only going for that salary, they're also choosing who I want to work for, like what kind of manager do I need, and who's actually going to help me further in my career path, where before that wasn't really a big issue. And also I think they look very much at which company am I choosing, and how is this company engaged in the world on a social perspective, on an environmental perspective, sustainable perspective, whatever. So I think there's already a shift happening on that part, because that old model where we actually promote those toxic leaders in a way, this can be in politics, but it can also be in companies. I think it's not of added value everywhere anymore. I think there is a new kind of management needed, and here and there we see them, which is a very good thing, because you need more empathy. You have to be capable of not being there for yourself, but for the joint goal and together. And I think there's a big shift already going on. So it's not something which we are looking into the future. It's already happening.
Yeah. And what do you think that human race in whole, maybe we can reflect this crisis that we have right now in the world. What do you think, by your opinion, what human race is going to change dramatically in years that will follow? Not just on the let's say career level, but on the all other levels.
I think that people will really look more in who am I? And I think if you look at, I don't know, I just recently saw an interview on Wired, I don't know if you know it, about Yuval Noah Harari. He wrote a book about
okay, yes.
Yeah. And this was an interview together with Jim Harris, and they were talking about how actually people are programmed. If you look at all the algorithms on the social networks and the things, you know, it's very scary to see that in the end we can all be programmed. But in the end, I think as long as you are capable, because the world is changing very quickly and we are all in it, but if you are capable of learning and going with the flow in a way, but staying, let's say, to yourself in a way, and knowing yourself and what you are here for, I think that's a big difference. So there I see a huge potential in let's say, the working force or the race or whatever you call it, where they actually can have a impact on what's going to happen in the world and also within the companies.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation and I enjoyed a lot. And for you out there, subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next Thursday when we talk about some new innovations.
Thank you very much.